Hello and welcome to Mentoring Movement. Today we're going to be talking about the axis. And the axis is easier to show in a chair, and I want to talk about a couple of anatomical terms that are used. So on a spine, on a skeleton, and I'll have another video that shows the skeleton more clearly, you have the very top vertebra, which is called the atlas. And Atlas obviously was, from Greek mythology, the man who held up the earth, or the god that held up the earth, and in his hands he held the earth. And the first vertebra of our cervical spine, that rests, our head rests within that, is holding that up. The second vertebra, and that rotation is only forward and back in this plane. So your skull on top of your spine literally only looks up or down from that very first joint. The second joint, which is C2, or called the axis, is one in which you rotate your head and everything can turn around the axis. So we have the atlas and then the axis. The axis has a special protrusion called the dens, which helps to guide that action. So today we're going to be looking at how your axis, you turn, but you also bend. And in dance, we often talk about that there are kind of 7 dance forms. There's actually more, which I'm going to add in today. One of them is to bend, sometimes called plie in ballet. Stretching is étendre in French, and it often means the limbs. Our limbs are what stretch, but you can stretch your spine by lengthening it forward, lengthening it back, lengthening it backwards. And then releve, we often show that on the toes. We releve, we come into releve, but it just means to rise, to releve. Saute, jump, little light jumps, if you can imagine jumping. Tourner, or turn, is yet another term. Glisser, or glissande, glissant, to glide or to slide. And what's the other one? Oh, élancer, to dart quickly. Élancer, dart. Your eyes can dart, your fingers can dart, your head can dart this way and that. I'm going to add into those over the course of what we're doing. You can twist, so one of you, not just turn everything in one direction, but one part of you goes one direction, another part of you goes the other. You twist, as we know, to wring. Sometimes in other movement forms we call that to wring something out. A movement that I love to use is shaking. Swinging, gets blood flowing and everything happening. And then balance. Balance is something that I'll be very specific about, that we don't balance very well over something, on top of something. Oh, we think we're balancing on top. I'm balancing over the chair. I'm sitting on the chair. Instead, my balance comes from rising, the second term in there, releve, to rise from the floor or from the chair. We rise to balance. Balance is something that happens from the bottom up rather than from the top down. It's a very different experience. In fact, we'll start there with this very short demonstration that we're going to do now. So when you're balancing, think about your pelvis as it rests on the floor. We have 2 bones in the bottom of our pelvis called sit bones, or they're protrusions. They're not separate bones. They're the protrusions of our pelvis in which we sit with the chair or the floor, whatever we're doing. And then we have this axis. Now the axis is not just the second vertebra of our spine. It is the reference. It is the pathway for regulation, or the reference that we use to move around. It's an imaginary line, in a sense, this axis that goes down through us or up through us, as I'm now kind of contemplating this difference. So as it rises up through us, we turn. Yeah, tourne. What if we turn and bend? We turn and bend this axis. Part of us goes forward, part of us goes back. We can think of this whole bit of our movement. Oh, what if I swing with a turn? Or I twist to keep this turning going. Or shaking while doing any of these. So we bring all these actions into our work. The stretch can be two ways. You can stretch, you can push and pull. And I'm going to talk about that right now, because to stand out of the chair, up from the chair, from the floor in the chair, I want to think of actually kind of pulling my leg bones into my pelvis, my femurs, with the trochanters that fit into the heads of the trochanters fit into my pelvis in such a way that I can feel like I can kind of pull or push the chair underneath me. See if you can try that, and notice how your head, when you pull or you push, what are you doing? And it also might be a nice thing to notice, are you pulling or pushing more with one hip than the other? And are you trying to push against the floor? Are you using your contact with the floor to change this? Now for me, I can feel my right hip is more active than my left. What if I change that so my left becomes as active or even more active than my right? And I can play back and forth and notice my head tilting. It's possible to do this and leave the head straight, or looking forward. It's possible to do even a circle down here. But we're just going to look at pulling the chair and then pushing the chair away. You know what these differences are? If you do this just briefly, you come over, balancing over. Instead of rising up, you'll feel a difference. So for now, we're going to rise up from the floor, and then we're going to rise back to the floor. And since we lift ourselves back, we lift ourselves up.